Will you condemn James Lindsay?
For what?
For no enemies to the right. Well, he's certainly at odds with your moral worldview, destructive to its ends, and aligning with him has caused you problems. Will you speak out? Will you say this guy is bad? We should not be working with him. We should be. First of all, he's not a Christian. He's a polyamorous liberal who has been putting out false arguments to make your argument fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think. Okay. Not you personally,
yeah. No,
but I have seen this faction of individuals intentionally align with him because it grants them power and they want to use it.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. Well, James Lindsay has shot himself in the foot a little bit with this kind of over-application of the woke right term.
Yeah, I think once he started calling Orthodox pro-Israel Jews woke right, it might have jumped the shark.
Hold on, I guess I want to finish my train of thought with him because he. At a core level, I do appreciate what he's doing, even though he shoots himself in the foot and he's really good at making enemies. He is a freedom first guy. He cares about preserving freedom, and so do I. When it comes to his faith, he's not an atheist anymore. He's at least agnostic, and I'm praying for his conversion. He's been reading the Bible a lot, and he's been. I won't say any more about him because I don't know, but. This is one thing I'll say. The last time I was with James Lindsay, it was at a libertarian convention. You know, a bunch of godless libertarians. No offense.
I'm not a libertarian.
At one point, he had done his presentation. Someone asked a question during the Q&A, like, how do we save this country? And he said, the only way I see for us to save this country is for you to get back into your Bible, find a church and go to church and pray earnestly for our country. And he wasn't pandering. This wasn't a crowd of evangelicals, so he wasn't pandering. He was talking to a bunch of, godless libertarians. And so my point is, I don't agree with Lindsay on everything, obviously, but I will unite with a guy who tells people that our hope is Scripture, church, and prayer.
So does Nick.
Over a professed Christian who says, Hitler was cool, 15-year-olds or, all the nasty stuff that Nick Fuentes has said. Or a professed Christian who says...
I reject this. James Lindsay is the other side of the coin for Nick Fuentes in this argument. You are overlooking the things he does that is destructive to you because he said things that benefits you. And there are many people who would say similarly of Nick, perhaps Tucker Carlson. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But while certainly Nick has said a bunch of abhorrent things, like you mentioned, saying, Hitler, Stalin, all these guys, there are a lot of people saying, no enemies to the right. Well, at least he is a Christian, and at least he is espousing that message.
He's not a Christian.
And young men are following it. Neither is James Lindsay, but you would be willing to unite with a guy.
It's like there's some kind of friend-enemy distinction governing political coalitions. Look, so
that's the other. I mean,
I want to make this one important point on the issue I take with. I see these. I don't know how you would describe the faction of people that are more in your camp. I believe James Lindsay opposes your worldview and is trying to destroy it. I believe that his Christianity
being what he
Christianity
thinks he's trying to destroy Christianity
and conservatism.
I disagree.
This is a man whose entire body of work is infiltrating groups and presenting arguments that make them look retarded. And he is doing that to you right now, and you're going along with it because there is some benefit you received. So ignoring all of the destructive things he's done, he's cost you allies, he's created enemies, and he's dismantled your own arguments, which is literally what he's done on the left now to you. And you're like, well, but he said some things that are beneficial to me, so I'll keep it.
And maybe I'm just naive, but I see someone who is standing up for what he believes in at great cost to himself. He's kind of lost everything.
You're saying no enemies to the right in the exact same way.
How do you mean?
This argument, no enemies to the right, means people who are aligned with us enough we should not attack. And you are saying this of James Lindsay, who is the antithesis and has exhibited. I'm gonna say this bare point again because it's fascinating to me. When I was talking with Scott Horton about this, and I said, "Oh, James Lindsay hates Israel," and he was like, "What are you talking about?" No, he defends it all the time, and I'm like, "You just tweeted that he was your secret agent helping you dismantle this argument pro-Israel." James Lindsay goes to the left, makes and presents false arguments that they utilize and look like idiots. He is quite literally, as a liberal, polyamorous guy, doing the same thing to you, but you're falling for it the same way leftist academics did. He's never been a conservative. He's never liked the Marxists. He wants traditional social liberalism, and he is attacking the enemies of it, to the point where he said, I should be the leader, and our true enemy is national conservatism. And he is called, my favorite example, Mary Morgan, woke right. Mary is a pop culture commentator that works here at Timcast. She does a show about video games, movies, and actresses, and even she's woke right. He has made you look like fools over and over again. Now, I know he's not saying that he likes Hitler or anything like that, but the absurdity of his comments is destructive to your political ends, and you can't see it. When I see someone say no enemies to the right, and they're willing to align with Fuentes, I see in a different way, very similarly to your willingness to align with James Lindsay.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I think I'm not a subscriber of no enemies to the right. I think that I will unite with people. You know, Dave Rubin is another example that always gets brought up. You know, he's gay and he bought surrogate babies. You know, you're a Christian. How could you unite with this guy? I don't know Dave Rubin. I've never done anything with him. And you've talked about this too, Auron. We choose our friends, allies, and co-belligerents differently. You know, sometimes we have co-belligerents that we don't agree with on everything, but politically, they are kind of on our side for what we're pushing for politically. James Lindsay, I see as someone who is calling out an anti-liberty. A growing anti-liberty movement on the right. He called it out when it was on the left.
But he's not. And again, this is the point. I sorry to interrupt, but he called me a Marxist plant. He tweeted at Carl Benjamin, "It's not my job to educate you." His modus operandi has always been infiltrate and destroy.
At some point, you have to care. Like, you can't just pretend like, oh, it's fine. And really, honestly, this is the most boring topic ever. Like, James isn't here to defend himself, and I don't want to spend a ton of time going on about it. I agree with what you're saying, but like, it's just the most. Yeah.
My final point on this is largely just, again, I agree. We don't need to talk about some guy, but if there's a subject matter in this debate of Nick Fuentes as a particular individual, there are other elements of I am willing to defend abhorrent people who are destructive if it suits my ends.
Yeah, you can't pretend that it's all on one side. And again, Nick Fuentes has lied about me maliciously. I have no love for Nick Fuentes at all. But we just can't pretend like the bad behavior is one direction. But again, this really gets back to the original.
So do you guys actually put James Lindsay on the same plane as Nick Fuentes in terms of like how loathsome and wicked they are?
I don't know. Of course, it will depend on the issue. So, for instance, how bad is buying children from their mother?
James Lindsay didn't do that.
I know, but since you brought up Dave Rubin, like where does that on the scale of moral, is that above a Nick Fuentes being
it's wicked and it should be outlawed.
But you asked to be placed. So like if we're placing it, is it Nick Fuentes is saying bad things,
right?
Dave Rubin is separating children from their mother. Which one is worse?
Or money.
So again, I draw a line between how someone conducts themselves in their life, in their personal life, versus what they're saying and the messages that they're promoting. So, for example, I don't defend Trump in his adultery and the things that he's done in his private life. I support him because of the policies that he represents.
So let's approaching it that way. Dave Rubin has advocated for it. He has published his intention to do so. He has published photos of him doing so. So he is speaking to his millions of followers saying, I have paid a woman to birth children that I now have control over.
Yeah, and I condemn that.
Is that worse than Nick?
Condemned. Yeah.
Can you work with him?
What's that?
Could you work with him? Could you be allies with him? Knowing that he's done that and pretending that that's bad.
Again, I'm choosing. I'm
pretending.
Is he?
No, I mean, I think it's bad, but I'm saying pretending that we care. If we care when people do bad things, and we can't ally.
If I ever see him in public saying, advocating for gay adoption surrogacy, I will go after him as every bit as hard and obnoxiously as I go after everybody else. So I haven't seen him publicly promoting that, except for the one.
Let's try this. What actions has Nick taken that you would put in a similar camp of the purchase of children?
I don't know. I don't know his what he does in his personal life.
Has Dave Rubin advocated for things? So the surrogacy is something he has advocated, published, and shown that he has done, and so that is part of his advocacy, as well as gay
I haven't
marriage.
seen him advocate for it. I mean,
Dave posted photos
he
and
did.
talked
he posted
and
that one photo announcing it, but I haven't seen him advocating for it.
I mean,
as
how
a
else
matter of public
do we
policy.
interpret that other than advocation?
And also, but also
don't know
more
what-
importantly,
what-
gay marriage.
what kind of
and I want to stress, I'm not
gymnastics are we
trying to
doing?
roast Dave or anything like that. I like Dave. Dave's a good dude. But I understand there are more questions over his
So
life.
again, are you putting Dave Rubin, James Lindsay? And
I'm
Nick
trying to
Fuentes in the same
figure out
moral
where
plane?
where your line is for
Okay.
alliance.
All right.
So
when
let
it
me
comes
just
to
point
alliance
out.
politically, all right, I'm willing to ally with people who care about freedom, who will fight for the freedom of me and my wife and my kids and for future generations.
Do you think?
I don't want economic slavery. I don't want social slavery. I want America to remain free, and I want me and my kids to remain free.
Do you think Nick Fuentes is evil?
We're all evil. I mean, we're all sinners. We all
Yeah,
fall
but
short of the glory of God.
When you look at someone like Jasmine Crockett,
I think that what he is advocating for is particularly and uniquely evil. And yes, I think he's part of a very evil movement. Yes.
can you quantify specifically? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Just to understand your view of what he's advocating for.
Yeah. I think that he is. I think he's a nihilist. I think he is advocating for racial hatred. I think he is dividing the conservative movement, destroying it from within. I think that what he represents is really. I mean, I know he claims Christianity. He's not a Christian. He's a pagan.
So
He represents a post-Christian new pagan rite that, like Romans 1, worships the creature over the creator, that worships the forces of nature.
So why do you believe that? Like, what has he said? Because that's the antithesis of what he's said, and you don't got to take his word for it. But there's a few things that I think are interesting. One, again, like
I look at his fruit. I don't care what he says. I don't care what anybody says. I look at
one of his most viral videos.
Jesus in
Didn't we
Matthew
literally just
11
say the opposite of that?
Jesus in
You
Matthew.
said the opposite. You said that it matters. You don't care what they do in their personal life. You care what they espouse.
No, I'm talking about in terms of whether or not I think he's a Christian. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, not whether I'll ally with him.
Okay.
He's said racism is low IQ. He has a very viral video that got like 50 million views where
He flips his opinions all the time.
He's a
total
shock jock.
nihilist.
Why
He's
are
a
you
total nihilist?
That's the real problem, though. Yeah. Why are you taking him seriously if you think that's okay? I'm with you. Like, I think ultimately, I don't think he has an ideology.
Because he represents a growing movement on the right that is increasingly despairing, sees no hope for renewal or return, and just wants to burn it all down. Just like the left.
I do better.
And this is the point I'm trying to get to.
One thing that James
the
Lindsay
point
always says, that I think is a great saying. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe you guys can tell me because you're more well read. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And the one thing that the far left and the far right is united around right now is the destruction of the American Republic. They want to destroy it.
See,
we already talked about how
hold on.
Sorry,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's
but
okay.
For 70 years, the United States has been operating under what's called the liberal economic order that you seek to topple. You are advocating for a revolution from that system.
Are you talking about like the post-war order?
It's the CFR calls it the liberal economic order, the establishment of the World Bank, the IMF, international. Unless you're actually in favor of us sending $250 billion to Ukraine and invading the Middle East and nation building in Korea and Afghanistan. And if that's true, then I stand corrected.
No, sorry. What are you asking?
The general movement behind Trump opposes the liberal economic order, which would be open borders, free trade.
Correct.
So you are seeking a revolution from a 70-year-old system that's been established internationally.
Yes.
So when you look at what Nick is advocating for, and he says these structures of power must be changed, or the left saying these structures, you too are calling for a revolution against the current world order.
Okay. All right. So yes, there is. There's a balance there. I think Chesterton, there's something that Chesterton says that I really like. The reason conservatism always fails is because, if you were to stand in front of a white fence post in a field and you're standing in front of it to guard it, entropy is happening behind you, and that eventually over the years that fence post is going to turn black, right? And so in order to maintain a white fence post, you always have to be repainting it. In other words, you always have to be having a new revolution, right? We have this in Christianity. We had the Protestant Reformation. There are always these soft revolutions that happen where things need to be undone, things need to be torn down, things need to be renewed. The question is, are you just wanting to destroy everything for the sake of your nihilistic thirst for destruction, or are you trying to renew?
Let's advance beyond talking about Nick for a half an hour, right? But there's also Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson that have now found themselves entrenched in this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right for the Babylon Bee when you guys had a satirical article that said, out of abundance of caution, Megyn Kelly throws away her beeper.
Yeah.
It was deleted. I made the point that I thought it was deleted because it was more offensive to Israel than Megyn Kelly, as it stated in the article.
A lot of people didn't get that, yeah.
They got mad at me. Anna Kasparian said I was simping for Israel, and it's just like, wait, hold on. And then I had a lot of pro-Israel people say, no, the joke is that she's paranoid. Well, I'll point out the final line in the article was that her garbage can exploded. The joke was quite literally that Israel tried to murder Megyn Kelly,
right.
whether there's intention or otherwise.
Yeah.
And but you guys deleted it. What is the view of Megyn Kelly in this regard and Tucker Carlson? Are they also nihilistic like Nick? Are they just grifting?
I don't know. I can't claim to see in either of their hearts or what they're doing. I tend to be very earnest and sincere with what I'm doing, and so I just can't relate to anybody who changes their positions for money or based on who's paying them. I'm not saying that's them. I tend to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. People change their opinions. I don't know. When it comes to Megyn Kelly in the joke, I wouldn't read too much into it. I was off that week. I was at a funeral, so I didn't even write the joke. I didn't even know it had gone up. And we're just trying to find amusing things and joke about them. It was a joke about, all our jokes have multiple layers. It was a joke about Megyn Kelly being a little paranoid, talking about how if Mark Levin doesn't shut up, someone's going to kill her. And Israel, we joke about Israel.
Yeah,
we actually do. People say, why don't you tell jokes about the dude? We joke about Israel sometimes. I'm not going to say whether or not it should have been deleted or not.
It shouldn't have been deleted.
It's a shame that it was. But I think the thing that I go after you about sometimes, Auron, is I feel like, and this just might be a function of how online conversation can be. Sometimes we get a little bit hysterical, but the way you replied to Megyn in that joke, saying, it's not that simple, they want you dead, I thought that was kind of a wicked thing. We have no ill will towards Megyn. We obviously don't want her dead. That's the other thing that has come in. We're talking about political tactics here. When people went after Tucker for interviewing Fuentes and they called Fuentes a Nazi, a lot of people on the right, I don't know if this is coordinated or people just started copying each other, but the line ended up being, Charlie was killed because they called him a fascist. If you call anyone a fascist, including Nick Fuentes, you're trying to get somebody killed. You are calling for their assassination.
Yeah,
and I just thought that was.
I think
so
Ted Cruz is right about that.
I thought that was so wicked and cynical. No, Ted Cruz was talking about people who lie about someone being a fascist or lie about someone being a Nazi. That's what the left does. He wasn't talking about calling an actual Nazi a Nazi.
Do you think that the left doesn't think that you're a Nazi?
Of course they do.
Oh, I have a question.
No. This is important here. This is super important. So you just said that actually it's about the lying. That's the problem, except they're not lying. They're saying the truth, that you're a Nazi. They really believe that. That's not a lie. And so when you run around calling other people Nazis and you have zero self-reflection on the cost that has, that's a huge problem. I 100% believe that Charlie Kirk was killed because people believed he was a fascist. And I know that because it was written on the magazine of the guy who was shooting at him.
He was killed because he preached a biblical definition of male and female.
Again,
it was a trans furry that killed him.
Again, you can pretend
the boyfriend of a trans furry, allegedly.
You can pretend that he did not write his motivation directly on the gun, but he did. So we don't have to guess. And the
okay, so then what are we all tongue tied now? We are never allowed to call an actual Nazi a Nazi?
I have an important
that
question.
in a moment where you literally know that this kind of language is spurring political violence, you might, for a moment, think about the way in which you address it. Yes.
So I have some questions. Do you believe that if someone is accused of being a Nazi, that these leftists, there will be a murderous intent towards that person?
Not necessarily.
But possibly yes.
Again, I'm a little nuanced on this because I don't think the left will come after people like Nick Fuentes. Honestly, darkness knows darkness when they.
But hold on, that's already happened. They've gone to his house. They banged on his door. He got arrested over these
that
charges.
happens to Seth Dillon too. Yeah,
indeed. But
You just said they wouldn't do it.
Wait. This is an important distinction. I believe it is a fact that the left believes people on the right are Nazis. They say kill Nazis.
Yeah.
They make they said punch a Nazi. It went viral.
Right.
They showed the Covington kid being depicted him being thrown into a wood chipper.
Yeah.
So we know that there is a certain degree of murderous intent that exists on the left, and the calling of someone a Nazi falsely is intended to mark them as an enemy of the faction.
Correct.
So we know it is a possibility that if someone is branded a Nazi, the left may seek to harm them.
Yes.
And have in several instances. If there is a person who is a literal Nazi, dressing up like Hitler and preaching on a street corner, should that person be killed?
No.
So the issue I see here is it doesn't matter if Nick is or isn't a Nazi or Ted Cruz was saying falsely or literally. The point is, if we're in a country, in a culture where a large faction of people will murder you for being accused of being a Nazi, then whether you are or aren't isn't what matters. What matters is you've been targeted for death.
I don't think our ability to speak truth about a situation should depend on the current political climate or the current or the possible ramifications of you speaking truth. You should just speak truth. Agreed.
And so the point is, as the point Auron was making is, when people come out and say calling someone a fascist is basically saying kill him, or it's marking for the left.
I don't agree with that.
Well, you really
marking of anyone for death.
It obviously is, and you can tell because as soon as Charlie Kirk was dead, every one of the people celebrating his death, guess what they kept saying? Shot the fascist, killed the fascist. The fascists deserve to die. Even the people
they were singing Bella Ciao,
of course, and even after, even the moderate leftists who waited a few days eventually came back and started doing the backfill and saying, well, I would have never called for Charlie Kirk's death, but obviously he had it coming because he was a fascist, right? Like, so you can't have the left lay out piece by piece exactly how they are justifying the murder of people and then being like, well, that's not how that works. Look,
you're doing the whole stochastic terrorism thing. That was the line that the left brought about. The whole words are violence. I'm not going to make a political calculation of what might happen and who might do what if I speak the truth. I'm just going to speak the truth.
This is a great point, and my line was met when, after the murder of Charlie Kirk, the death threats reached such a level and such a clever way of bypassing law. I said, enough. I'm not playing this game anymore. Now, by all means, people have pointed out the left made the argument of stochastic terrorism. Effectively, oh, won't someone rid me of this meddlesome priest?
Right.
And then someone goes and does it. I refer to this phenomenon that we're seeing now, the Tweedledee, Tweedledum death threat. You cannot express an intent that I will go do this thing to this person. That's an imminent threat. You get arrested. You also can't instruct someone else to do it. You go do this thing to that person. What they've done now, exploiting the law, and we're seeing Democrats do this at the highest level, is I, standing next to Auron MacIntyre, says anybody who writes claims about Megyn Kelly should die for what they've done. Then Auron looks at you and goes, he wrote a false claim about Megyn Kelly. Neither one of us have made an actionable statement. But to anybody standing by, those two phrases together are an instruction to murder you.
Right.
This is what the left has been doing now for years. Andy Ngo is a fascist. Then someone else says, all fascists must die.
Correct.
Then they go and see him in the street and try and murder him.
Right.
Then when you try to arrest them, they say, my statement was free speech because I said only half the sentence.
Right.
We cannot function as a society this way if the left is knowingly exploiting the law. And a more extreme example, Democrats for months now have been falsely claiming that Donald Trump's military orders are illegal.
Right.
Then they come out in this video and say, defy illegal orders. They then say both of those individual statements are free speech. If you were to take all of their statements and put them together in one edit, if they said it in one 10-second statement, they'd be committing sedition.
Right.
We cannot operate in this country if people are allowed to say one thing and then their neighbor says the other. We know what the intention is and then pretend like, oh, rats.
The failure to understand that your politics have become existential is by definition fatal. Okay, so when you enter in a scenario where what I would like, what you and I think Joel would both like, is a republic where we can talk out our minor disagreements over Christian theology while living in a land that is ultimately governed by, by the law of Christ. Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic.
Yep.
But once you get so far apart, once you have people who believe a radically different thing and would be willing to kill you over it.
Yes.
Debate is no longer the primary way by which you understand politics. And this is critical. I would like to avoid violence. But to do so, we have to understand that there are forces inside the United States that are and will not stop until they can kill you and your children. This is important. That is what makes this fight so unfair. All right, because our enemy is a by any means necessary enemy. They only want power. They'll do whatever it takes to achieve it. And here we are on our side as Christians. I'm a Christian. We have rules. We have morals. We have things that we can't do, right? I think that we should do whatever it takes, tactically and otherwise, to win, short of violating Scripture. And that's what makes the fight unfair. But here's the thing. Here's where faith comes in as a Christian. We believe in a God who rules the universe, who is on the throne, who used Gideon's 300 men to defeat an army of thousands, who used David to defeat a giant, who says, trust not in horses and chariots, but trust in the name of the Lord, not by might, not by power, not by strength, but by my spirit, says the Lord. It is an asymmetrical fight. There are certain things that we can't do as Christians. This is also very important. When speaking to especially young men who are coming up and going to be politically active and hopefully going to be trying to save this country, I am not willing to send them down a road that I think will rot away their souls so that I can win. I'm not going to tell them, no enemies to the right. You have to shut up about this certain evil that is bothering your conscience because it's not tactically beneficial to our side. And again, that is a cripple. That's a handicap on our side. But as Christians, we have to have faith that God is going to bless it. So in World War II, we allied with a godless communist killing millions of Christians.
Yes. That was war.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And then we firebombed Tokyo and Dresden, and then we dropped several nuclear bombs. And by the way, I'm not arguing against any of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I George Bushed it. But we were willing to make all of these compromises because we understood the existential nature of the situation. Now you can tell me that you don't believe
when we get into when we get into a hot war, shooting war, I understand.
Charlie's dead.
I know. I knew you were going to say that.
That's where you are. That's the time.
We are not. There
no. Hold on. I got to.
We are not.
Okay.
We are not in a.
Hold on. Auron, I respect the World War II, but it's a little Godwin's law. So I'll bring it back 80 years further and ask you this question.
Since we were talking about fighting Nazis either way,
let me ask you. Do you think Abraham Lincoln did the right thing?
When he did what?
Generally, in the Civil War, the actions that were taken by the Union, was it the right thing to do?
I don't know.
Would you have preferred the Union to win?
You can go either way on it.
So is there a worldview in your mind that had the Confederacy successfully seceded, it would not necessarily be more or less good, morally good, or otherwise?
Had the Confederacy succeeded?
Is it a greater good that the Union won, or would you have seen a potentiality for a greater good if the Confederacy won?
I don't know. I mean, we can Monday morning quarterback it. I mean, I understand Lincoln did some bad stuff to win the Civil War. You can argue that,
some.
Right. It was, we stopped slavery. There was this. We had the kind of this moral argument on his side.
But he didn't end slavery at all. And he wanted to ship all the slaves back to Liberia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.